What's going on, guys? It's Red Bull Tanker, and welcome back to Axis and Allies Global 1940. This is turn 1 for all the Allied powers. So, like I said, purchases will come at the end of the turn. So we have combat moves, which the Allies only did 2 things to combat this turn. The Allies mustered up the majority of their navy and went after the 3 German subs here in Sea Zone 109. It was a complete success. The 3 subs were sunk at no loss to the Brits or the French cruiser. And then the only other attack this turn, the Chinese attempted to retake Yunnan and open up the Burma Road. They went in with 6 infantry and 2 fighters. But after 1 round of combat, they were not able to kill any of the Japanese units, and they lost 2. So China decided to pull the Chinese back. All right, non-combats. So we'll kind of go in order for the Allies like it would be in the game. All right, Russia. Basically, for Russia, they pulled the majority of their forces back from the border in the anticipation of Operation Barbarossa about to commence, probably in the next turn. Pulling back, building a large army group here, putting a large army group up in Leningrad, and at least putting a tough fight down here to keep the Ukraine at least safe for the moment. All right, the United States. The only thing in Europe that they did, or on the European side of the board, was they moved their strategic bomber from the central United States to the eastern United States. While over in the Pacific, the U.S. moved the majority of their fleet down here to the Hawaiian Islands. They also brought an infantry and an artillery on a transport, while the other transport went home. One of the fighters from Hawaii went back to the western United States in order to land with the new carrier that the U.S. Purchased. And then their forces here in the Philippines are kind of stuck there. And then that was it for the Americans. All right, for the Brits. The Brits shunted their forces around. They brought a lot of their air force down here to Algeria. They moved their fighter from Gibraltar to Malta to reinforce there. They brought their cruiser from the Straits of Gibraltar here off of Malta. They brought their destroyer from South Africa up into here. They moved their Canadian army here to Gibraltar. They moved Ontario to Quebec. They used their non-combat and opened up Persia for themselves. And then pulled their army out of Alexandria to consolidate here in Egypt. Meanwhile, the FEC, they flip-flopped their fleet, moved a defender into the Shan State, moved the majority of their army into Burma, minus their aircraft. And I just realized I didn't throw down their purchases, so I'm going to have to do that. I'll do that off camera. All right, and then let's see here. Oh, I forgot China. China didn't do any non-combat. Well, they did 1 combat, and they pushed this Chinese infantry here into Hopei. Anzacs. The Anzacs basically just consolidated here in Queensland, while also sending a fighter over here to Malaya to back up the defenders there. And then France. France moved their fleet down here off of Malta. They moved their forces here in Africa, trying to get defenses over to Tunisia, get this guy headed into Central Africa to help back up the Allied forces there. And that was it for France. All right, purchases. We'll go back around the horn again, same way as before, same way as we just did. All right, so for Russia, Russia had 37 to spend. They bought 1 infantry in Ukraine. They bought an infantry in Leningrad. And then in Moscow, they bought a mech, 2 tanks, and a fighter. They saved 5 IPC. And then at the end of the turn, They collected 37 plus the 5, so they will have 42 next turn. All right, the United States. The U.S. had 52 to spend. On the European side of the map, between the two minor factories in central and eastern the eastern United States, they bought 3 infantry and 3 transports. And then, like I said, over here on the West Coast, they purchased a carrier that the fighters landed on. The U.S. did save 6 IPC, and then at the end of the turn, they collected 52 plus the 6 for 58. China had 12 IPC to spend. They spent it all. They bought 3 infantry for Szechuan, and then bought an infantry up here for Hopei. And then at the end of the turn, China collected 10 IPC. All right, Britain. Britain had 28 to spend. They bought an air base for Malta. You can probably see why. And then they also bought a transport down here for South Africa. They also saved 6 IPC, which at the end of the turn, they collected 30, plus the 6 that they saved, plus the 5 for their bonus. So they ended the turn with 41 IPC. Far East Command. Far East Command bought 3 infantry and a tank that I will, like I said, I will put down off camera. They saved 2 IPC. And then at the end of the turn, they collected 17 plus the 2, so they will have 19 IPC to spend next turn. And I didn't do it for the Anzacs either. Good Lord. All right, the Anzacs. The Anzacs they had 10 to spend. There's supposed to be a transport right here. They saved 3, collected 10 plus the 3 that they saved. Anzacs will have 13 for next turn. And finally, France. Obviously, with Paris gone, France cannot purchase or deploy anything, so that is France. All right, well, that is it for turn 1 allies, and we will see you guys next time for turn 2 Axis. So until then, guys, as always, take care.